Yeah, look, young nigga, I got so much old money on my mind. I'm writing music, smoking, drinking, probably fucking every night. I'm clocking in because you know I need that rolling on my arm.
What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Robert here back with a brand new video. So today is going to be the opposite of what we did yesterday, and that was the top 8 of the Eastern Conference and who we think will potentially make the playoffs. You know, today's going to be top 8 of the Western Conference and who we think is going to make the playoffs, maybe even the play-in on this side. You know what I'm saying? And so to start things off, my not sleeper team, but my 9th seed, I know you won't be able to see it because we got 8 through 1. My 9th seed is so tough. It's between this team and the 8th. I didn't know who to pick. Ultimately, I decided for the 9th spot, it'll be the Portland Trail Blazers for the simple fact that with the addition of Chauncey as the head coach, of course, I'm not too sure how this team or what this team is going to be able to do to help Damian Lillard, as we saw so many opportunities from so many different players were missed late in games or whatever the case may be, and I just can't see this team make that deep push just yet. I think Damian ultimately will end up leaving, but I mean the addition of Cody Zeller once you lost Enes Kanter was nice. There's just too many questions with this squad, and I feel bad for Chauncey. I don't think this is a good situation to go to try and help improve. Which is why I have them at 9. They will still be competing in the play-in. They still have the chance, or in my eyes, will have the chance to ultimately get to and be in the playoffs. But I have them finishing 9th, tied with ultimately the 8th seed, which is the Memphis Grizzlies. I think with the addition of Eric Bledsoe, Steven Adams after that trade to get rid of Jonas Valanciunas, you have that depth ultimately, as well as drafting Zaire Williams. You have depth and you have the ability. We saw it time and time again from De'Anthony Melton. We saw it from Desmond Bane. Xavier Tillman had big minutes in those games and whatnot. And so I think this squad has the opportunity to show the world that last season wasn't a fluke. They could be the bottom of the West. They could compete to, put their name and stamp their names as players in the organization. That they may not be the best. They might not have the best players, but they're going to fight and get everything they got to prove to not only us, but the NBA world and people in the entire world that this team can compete. And so I think we're going to see that again this year as they finish the 8th seed, in my opinion, taking on whoever it is that I have at number 1. Moving on, with the 7th seed, it's questionable. It's questionable because this was my dark horse team in the postseason last year. If you watched our podcast, me and Montana and Blake, I said this team would be, in the Western Conference taking on the Phoenix Suns, and ultimately it just didn't happen. With the addition of Jason Kidd as their head coach, obviously I'm talking about Dallas. I think they take a little bit of a drop off. Now I could definitely see them get back to that 4th, 5th, 6th area, 100%. But with teams being healthy, with teams making some big, signings and adds to their squad, I just don't see, with Dallas not doing that this is going to help this team get to that next level and ultimately get to, what we're supposed to be seeing from Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic. Now, is Jason Kidd's ability as a coach going to help Porzingis get back to his New York Knicks days and be God? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I would hope so. I would be excited to watch God and not Porzingis. But it's just a question coming down to Porzingis and coming down to ultimately Jason Kidd and that offensive scheme, that offensive playbook that they're going to be running moving forward within the regular season. And so if Jason Kidd does something relatively different than what Rick Carlisle ultimately did, which was leaving Porzingis on the perimeter, if you can get Porzingis in the paint, add a little bit more muscle to him, someone coach him the ability, I don't know what it is, if it's all mental like Ben Simmons, if something happened, whatever the case may be, figure it out and get Porzingis back to being Porzingis. You know what I'm saying? It can't be Porzingis anymore. That's not his damn name. His name is goddamn Porzingis. I think a lot of people used to call him that. I mean, I did, and I'm trying to still see that. I believe he's a great player and can still potentially be that player next to Luka that they ultimately need. But moving on, a lot of people are not going to like this. You know what I'm saying? And that's with what my 6th seed is. My 6th seed ultimately will be how my Eastern Conference was. The number 1 seed took a fat dip from 1 to 7 on East with the 76ers. Here, I have the Utah Jazz taking a fat dip from 1 to 6. The reason being, yes, you added Rudy Gay, you added Hassan Whiteside, you got depth or more depth, and ultimately traded for Eric Pascal. Yes, that's perfectly fine. That's good. You got Donovan Mitchell and Eric Pascal, former high school teammates. They're now, boys again, and we're going to be able to run it up together. My problem, for the sole purpose of, like I said, with the Dallas Mavericks, you have a healthy Golden State Warriors team. You have a healthy Denver Nuggets squad. The Lakers make some god-crazy pickups. The Clippers are literally running it back. You have Kawhi healthy now. Reggie Jackson, we still don't know what he's going to do with his contract, but the assumption would be he's going to come back. And the Phoenix Suns, their biggest problem was their backup center, and they fill that void with JaVale McGee. You take all of that into consideration, and I just don't know what the Utah Jazz are going to do. Now, this team is deep, don't get me wrong. If anything, they added more depth to their rotation, and I completely understand that because of the questionability of Mike Conley's health, and if he's going to consistently get injured down the stretch late in this regular season, I feel like that could hurt the Utah Jazz in the sense of their ranking in the West. Now, they have the depth, if they can all stay healthy, to make a push, to make some noise, and be that team to potentially beat the Lakers or whatever the case may be, to get to the Western Conference Finals, because they have that depth, like I said. But health is going to come into a factor here. And their biggest problem was Mike Conley and his disappearance late in the regular season, came back, got hurt again, and then disappeared in the playoffs because he couldn't play. And so I think that is ultimately what's going to hurt the Utah Jazz. As great as a player Mike Conley is, I think his injury proneness, if you want to look at it like that, is going to affect them and where they rank more or less in the West. Moving on, with the 5th seed, this is my dark horse squad. If I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, this right here is my dark horse team. I have this squad healthy, fully healthy, making a deep, if not showing the world that they're back. And that's ultimately the Golden State Warriors. You get a healthy Klay Thompson, you get a healthy James Wiseman, and there's no doubt in my mind, with the addition of Otto Porter, ultimately losing Kelly Oubre, you know what I'm saying? With the addition of everybody, as well as obviously Jonathan, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, and honestly, I really do not want to try. As we're talking about depth, my fault for cutting in here, you know what I'm saying, mid-video and whatnot. But as I'm editing this video, as you guys can see right here, Iggy is returning to the Golden State Warriors. I think this is a huge move to add to their depth. As you can see here, maybe JT doesn't get the minutes, that he was accustomed to that he did last year, and you put Iggy right behind Draymond, or even start. Actually, you can't even really start, but you have Iggy off the bench, which will be a huge impact for this bench and the depth for this roster. I feel like the Golden State Warriors now could even make a case, or an even more of a case, to be that 4th seed and, continue to be an impactful team, or my dark horse, as I mentioned, or if I haven't, as I will mention. You know what I'm saying? I just got really excited that this man Iggy joined this roster, and so I'm very excited to see what the heck happens with this damn Golden State Warriors squad. As long as they're healthy, I think they could be a freaking unit and make, a nice little run in the postseason. But other than that, back to the regular scheduled program video. Peace. They have the ability and the depth to be good if these players develop the way they want. If Jordan Poole can continue to improve his game, if Nico Mannion can continue to improve his game, if Jonathan can do the same, if Moses can do the same, you add on Bjelica from the Miami Heat as your 3rd string, I feel like, power forward who can shoot the ball if need be. So he's more so like a Jonas Jerebko of the past with, this Golden State Warriors team. They have the ability to be great if everybody can stay healthy. I think we finally will be able to see that. They will be able to prove to the world that the Golden State Warriors, all they were really missing was Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson was their guy. You know what I'm saying? And so I think so many games last season, down the stretch, Andrew Wiggins missed shots, Jordan Poole missed shots, Draymond missed shots, everybody missed shots, and Steph Curry could only do so much. Having Klay Thompson back will be such an impact offensively and defensively like he has been. I think we'll see we'll see what Golden State Warriors team we're used to. Now, obviously, we won't see the 73-9 squad, you know what I'm saying? But with a healthy team and the addition of James Wiseman, there's just, there's no question that this team can't be great in my eyes. And so I have them at 5th. I can see them maybe finishing 4th, but that's just about it. I think that's where they will end up in the West, 4th or 5th. And I'm just excited to see, Golden State Warriors basketball again with Klay Thompson back. I truly do believe in this roster, in this organization, to get winning mentality back to this program. And I'm just excited to see it. Moving on. The reason this team will be number 4, and I'll just get it out of the way. The Los Angeles Clippers, the reason this team will be number 4 has nothing to do with any of the moves that the Lakers made. The Nuggets being healthy, the Suns adding JaVale McGee, this has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with what they did last year. And it was a meme. A lot of people were like, being conspiracy theorists about it. They are going to tank yet again if they have the ability to. If the Clippers are around the 2nd or 3rd seed and the Lakers, so here's my thought process. The Clippers want to face the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. They don't want to face the Lakers in the first 2 rounds. So what they're going to do is look at where the Lakers are, where they are in the playoff picture, whether it's the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, and the Clippers are going to do everything in their power. If they're a 3rd seed, they're going to do everything in their power to maintain that 3rd seed if the Lakers are number 1. If the Lakers are number 2, they're going to do everything in their power to tank and avoid the Los Angeles Lakers. Because let's be real, we have all wanted a LA or a Battle of LA in the Western Conference Finals. We don't want that in the first round. We don't want that in the second round. Just like last year, we didn't want the Milwaukee Bucks Brooklyn Nets series in the second round. That was an Eastern Conference Finals series, and it should have been. So we're going to see that again happen, where the Lakers and the Clippers will meet on the other side of each other on the bracket and will avoid each other as much as possible. So I think the Clippers will ultimately tank, be that 4th seed to avoid the Los Angeles Lakers as much as possible. And so moving on, with that being said, I do not have the Lakers at number 3. I have the Phoenix Suns at number 3. I think they take a sudden decline or like a slight decline, but it has nothing to do with running it back or whatever the case may be, because if anything, in my eyes, I think they improved. Yes, adding only one person in JaVale McGee. Oh, how do you think they improved? Their problem last year against so many different teams and so many different organizations was the second unit with Big Shot Rob and Dario Saric, who will not be playing this year because he tore his ACL first game of the NBA Finals. It'll be very surprising if he does play. Then Frank Kaminsky barely played. Their problem was every time that second unit came in, the other team would make adjustments and have their bigs really abuse them at all costs. You know what I'm saying? And so this year, acquiring, or I should say signing, JaVale McGee, who the past 5 years has given nothing but love and appreciation to each organization he's been a part of, putting everything he's got defensively as well as trying to be as impactful as he can offensively for the Golden State Warriors, for the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm excited to see what JaVale McGee can do for this team when that second unit comes in. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can talk all day about the Phoenix Suns. At least I can. I'm not too fond of, or I don't know why the heck he's not in the second unit, but he ultimately will be the backup behind DeAndre Ayton. You get your shooting ability from Cam Johnson. You completely forgot they made that trade for Javon Carter to acquire Landry Shamet. So you have him as a backup behind Devin Booker, who can shoot the ball relatively well, in Cam Payne. We all know a lot of people was surprised at Cam Payne's performance in the postseason. I wasn't, to be honest. I've seen Cam Payne have potential and sparks and his ability, if Chris Paul went down, to have that contribution that he needed to provide for this team. So I think this team is suited well to potentially make another run at the NBA Finals ultimately, or the Western Conference Finals, depending. It'll be very interesting to see what the Phoenix Suns can do this year. There's no doubt in my mind that they can make another run at the NBA Finals with the signing of JaVale McGee, because now there's no more bully balling. Wow. There's not going to be any more bully ball that's going to happen in that second unit with their bigs. And so I'm excited to see exactly what happens and what goes down with this roster. But moving on, the second seed in the Western Conference will be the Los Angeles Lakers, for the sole purpose of, like I said, the Clippers are going to avoid the Lakers at all costs. You know what I'm saying? The Lakers made huge moves of re-signing Talen Horton, getting Trevor Ariza, getting Carmelo Anthony, getting Kendrick Nunn, getting Kent Bazemore, getting Malik Monk, getting Wayne Ellington, trading for Russell Westbrook. The team, and bringing back Dwight Howard. Let me not forget. The team, like I said, is the best team surrounding LeBron James that he's had since the Miami Heat teams. In my opinion. That might be a hot take, but I'm going to stick to that. In my eyes, there is no excuse that the Los Angeles Lakers cannot win the NBA Finals, or at least get to the NBA Finals this year. This team has depth. Yes, you can say they're old and maybe, their bodies are going to wear out and they're going to be tired. But we're talking about LeBron James, one of the greatest players in the NBA, one of the greatest players of all time. He is always taking good care of his body, and I think he's going to treat his teammates the same because they're all relatively close in age. With Banana Boat teammate Carmelo Anthony, I think he's going to make sure his body's right. Trevor Ariza the same. There's no doubt in my mind LeBron James, as a leader, will make sure his players and his teammates, I should say, will be as healthy as they possibly can, properly taking care of their body, being in shape, and knowing that this season will be a deep push. If they need to take breaks, take breaks. You know what I'm saying? Have rest games, whatever the case may be, but this will be a deep playoff push. And so the Lakers, I think finally this year we're going to see a LeBron James, Kevin Durant matchup in the NBA Finals. I think we see it. I think these two teams are set up as long as they stay healthy. If they end up not being healthy, then it comes down to, yet again, last year we'll be able to, we'll miss the opportunity, and it'll just suck. But it was crazy to me. I saw a picture. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie, LeBron James, and then it had LeBron James, Russell, Kevin Durant, Kyrie looking at the past. You know what I'm saying? And to think that they just flipped those two teammates and Kyrie is with KD, Russell's with LeBron, it's going to be very interesting to see how successful that both of those two will be, or that those duos will be, because with flipped, they were extremely successful as well. Next up, and finally, the first seed. I think we can all agree, out of the teams that are left, who's going to be that first seed. And for me, it's the Denver Nuggets. The reason being, you add Jeff Green, his veteran leadership. You you bring back everybody else to this rotation, and it's going to be extremely healthy. You know what I'm saying? Jamal Murray is going to be healthy. When you get him back, I'm not too sure. But to have Jamal Murray back, to have Will Barton back, who we saw in that Phoenix Suns series, had he come back a bit sooner, could have made that series very interesting. I think we see Michael Porter go back to what he's accustomed to, rather than trying to play hero ball with his back being injured and whatever the case may be. He goes back to being set up from Jamal, being set up from potentially Will Barton, Monte Morris, whatever the case may be. This team has depth, bro. This team has depth, and I'm excited to see exactly what this Denver Nuggets squad can do. You know what I'm saying? I think they're going to make some noise. I think this team could potentially even make a Western Conference Finals appearance, or even an NBA Finals appearance. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on what this team can do. They may not have that much depth compared to everybody else in my top five, but I still think they're going to be on a mission like no other. And so with having Jamal back, like I said, it should be very impactful, to say the least, for this squad and for this rotation. But that, that's pretty much that. Like, I truly believe in the Denver Nuggets being my first squad, like my first seed. You know what I'm saying? The Los Angeles Lakers made crazy moves and there's no doubt in my mind, should be in the NBA Finals and should win the NBA Finals with the depth that they have. The Phoenix Suns have the opportunity, adding JaVale, to be great and ultimately make another push to the NBA Finals. The Clippers will ultimately, in my eyes, as conspiracy theorists as that sounds, tank a little bit to finish fourth. So we see a Lakers or a Battle of LA Western Conference Finals, hopefully, if everything goes right. Golden State Warriors, my sleeper squad, my dark horse team, to make noise, prove people wrong, and show them that they're back and getting that winning mentality, back into that organization, back to that program, and ultimately back to that city. You know what I'm saying? We're going to see a lot of we believe. And the Utah Jazz, like I said, a drop off from 1 to 6, like my Eastern, with the Sixers from 1 to 7. There's just too many questions. I don't know if it's Quinn Snyder. I don't know if it's Rudy Gobert's defensive ability that they could just take advantage of with the pick and roll that we saw time and time again. I don't know what it is, but the Utah, I feel, will take a huge drop from 1 to 6 this year. Dallas, if Jason Kidd can get them right, if Porzingis can ultimately turn back to Porzingod from the New York Times, I think they could even finish 6th or maybe even 5th in the Western Conference. Memphis, with the addition of Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, there's no doubt in my mind they have the depth, the ability to keep proving people wrong and beat over the Portland Trailblazers. But that's the highest I have them. I don't think the Memphis Grizzlies can get to the 7th seed. I think the Memphis Grizzlies will ultimately be between the 8th, 9th, and potentially 10th in the entire Western Conference, with the Portland Trailblazers either being below them at 9 and they're ahead, or the Trailblazers being above them with the Grizzlies being at 9, or whatever the case may be. Really quick, I'm going to just show you guys the rest of my Western Conference. I have, obviously, Memphis Grizzlies, Portland, don't know where to put where, but 8 and 9, whoever's at 8, the other will be at 9. The Pelicans, originally I had the Houston Rockets over the Pelicans, but after really legitimately looking at that roster, even though all they really did was add Jonas Valanciunas and lost more than they added, I think you finally lose Lonzo, but give Nickeil Alexander the opportunity to be that point guard that they need him to be, as well as ultimately you get Devontae Graham, in the sign-in trade. You have B.I., Zion, and Jonas Valanciunas. And so I think that team can make some noise. I don't know if they're quite playoff ready to jump into that 8th seed, but we're just going to have to see how the regular season goes and how, potential play-in opportunities go. The Houston Rockets at 11, I think they'll be a sleeper team to prove to the people. They may be unproven players, but they have a really nice squad. Christian Wood, Daniel Tice, Jalen Green, Kevin Porter, John Wall. The list goes on. That squad has the opportunity to be great, and it might just be a little bit biased because I've enjoyed watching Jalen Green grow up, as well as Josh Christopher. I've enjoyed watching them, and I relate to Kevin Porter Jr.'s story way too much. Maybe it's just a little bit biased putting them at 11, but I feel like they have the ability and the AAU team aspect that a lot of people are tweeting about to be a decent squad in the West. The San Antonio Spurs being without being without a superstar for the first time in Pop's tenure. I guess not first time, but in quite some time. We'll see how they go. I don't think they're a bottom feeder like a lot of people that I was seeing were saying. I don't think they're a 15 or 14 seed in the West, or maybe even the worst team in the West. I definitely can see them having their production from their role players and whatnot, being able to do just enough to get to around the 12th, 11th seed in the West. The Timberwolves, as much as that starting lineup is nice, their bench is just too questionable for me to give them, or even get them over the hump to the 12 or 11. The Thunder, I don't know what the crap Sam Presti and them boys are doing, building around Shea. There's too many questionable moves that have happened for this roster, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I have them at 14. And of course, the Sacramento Kings, as much as I love Tyrese, as much as I love De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley does not want to be there. Buddy Hield has been in trade rumors for God knows how long. It's going to be very interesting to see, to say the least, exactly what these teams are going to do to try and, you know, make their little cases here and there. But I think ultimately this is how I have the entire West panning out. Let me know in the comment section, you know, what you guys think, what you guys have, where you rank everybody and whatnot. This is a very early, you know, playoff prediction. Maybe I'll do another one as we get closer to the regular season, but I'm pretty confident with what we got here with the West. If you guys haven't already, hit that like button, drop a sub, join the crew, you know what I'm saying? Join the family, join all of that, whatever the case may be. Road to 500, man. We right there. You know what I'm saying? And so I appreciate each and every one of you. I love you all. You guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys in a little bit because I will be streaming. So tune in if you guys want. If not, then I'll see you guys probably tomorrow with another video. Peace.